Welcome back to Unit 3. We are on Lesson 6, Fraction Estimation with Number Sense. We're going to be able to use fraction number sense to estimate and assess the reasonableness of answers to fraction, addition, and subtraction problems. We're also going to be able to use equivalent fractions as a strategy to add and subtract fractions. Let's start off with our warm-up. Rewrite the following number sentences on slates or a piece of paper. Insert your grouping symbols to make them true. So the first one, we have 4 plus 5 divided by 3 equals 3. So figure out where some grouping symbols would go to make this true. And the second one is 5 times 4 plus 2 equals 20. Where would you put your grouping symbols for the two of these to make these statements true? I'll pause the video, you pause the video, and come back and check. The first one, you should have put a parentheses or grouping symbols around 4 plus 5. That would make that 9. And we know 9 divided by 3 equals 3. This second one, there is not a correct place because I believe this should actually be 22. And so I apologize for that error. You would want to put your parentheses around the 5 and the 4 to do 5 times 4, which is 20, plus 2, which is 22. If you did the parentheses or the grouping symbols like this, you would actually get 5 times 6, which would equal 30. So again, neither one of those would represent 20. So you would either get 22 or you would get 30. Again, I apologize for those errors. They happen. Moving on to our vocabulary review, we have one word today. That's it. And that word is conjecture. So reminder that the word conjecture is a statement that is thought to be true based on information or a mathematical thinking. So we are going to actually be making some conjectures today. Let's look at the math message here. Again, on a slate or a piece of paper, Christopher solved 2/3 plus 1/2 and got 3/5. Sam said, I think your answer is wrong, and I can prove it without calculating. Show how Sam can prove that Christopher is wrong without calculating a solution. So without actually adding, and so you should be able to show this through ways that we've been practicing. You can use your fraction circles that are on the Everyday Math website. You can draw a picture, but no need to actually add. Pause and come back and see if your thinking's the same as mine. Okay, take a look at these horrible pictures, but they represent something. So right here we have 2/3, and you can see when you have 2/3, you have less than a half left over. Okay, and then if I have 2/3 plus 1/2, that tells me if I'm going to do my 2/3 plus that 1/2, this is actually going to be greater than 1, just from that picture alone. I can also think of these as equivalent fractions. So I know 1/2 is the same thing as 3 out of 6, and 2/3 is the same as 4 out of 6. So I know, without doing anything, I know that this is going to be greater than 1. I don't need to actually add or do any addition here to prove that his answer is in fact wrong, just based off these pictures and these equivalent fractions that I've created. Okay, so Christopher, wrong. Here's another problem. Let's do some estimating, just like what I showed you. Tiara calculated 5/12 minus 1/10 and said the difference was 5/10. Does Tiara's answer make sense? How do you know? Well, I want you to not do anything. I just want you to listen and think about what I'm saying here. I know, just like in the last one when I stated some information I knew, I know that 6 out of 12 equals 1/2. Okay? And I know that 5/10 equals 1/2. When I see 5/12 and I see minus 1/10, it says the difference is 5/10. I'm going to think to myself, and I'm going to wonder, all right, this is almost 1/2. If I subtract 1/10, is my answer going to be 1/2? Because we see 5/12 is very close to 6/12. So we want to make some conjectures. Okay. They did a number model of 5/12 minus 1/10 equals 5/10. That's what they were guessing. Tiara's answer does not make sense. Okay. 5/12 and 5/10 with fraction circle pieces you can use, or you can draw pictures. 5/10 is larger than 5/12. If a number is subtracted from 5/12, the difference would be smaller. Okay, so that's just like when I was saying 5/10 is close, 5/12 is close to a half. If I've already got something that's a half and I subtract, it's not going to be 1/2. So same thing here. If we're starting, it's actually smaller than a half and we subtract something, we are not going to have 1/2 left over. It's not logical. It doesn't make sense. 5/10 is also larger than 5/12, like we said. If a number is subtracted from 5/12, the difference would be smaller than 5/12, not larger. And then Tiara's answer doesn't make sense. You could have said that you notice 5/12 and 5/10 both have the same numerator. And I know I talked about this in person last week. I can't remember if I talked about this in the video, but if two fractions have the same numerator, the fraction with the larger denominator is smaller because its larger denominator means the whole is divided into a larger number of smaller pieces. So 5/10 is greater than 5/12. So you kind of ask yourself, if someone was, cutting up a pizza and they cut it into 10 pieces, and then someone cut a pizza the same size, but then they cut it into 12 pieces, would you rather have 5 of the 10 slices or 5 of the 12 slices? You'd probably rather have 5 of the 10 because those slices are going to be a little bit larger than the pizza that was cut into 12. The more you cut it into, the smaller those portions are going to be. In a subtraction problem, it doesn't make sense that the difference would be larger than the number we started with. Martin lives 5/6 mile from school. Maria lives 1/12 of a mile farther away from school than Martin. Maria said, I live 3/4 mile from school. Does Maria's statement make sense? How do you know? I'm going to stop for a second and say, this last one was a subtraction. This one's going to be an addition problem because we see that Martin lives 5/6, Maria lives 1/12 further. We're trying to figure out how far away from school she lives. Does 3/4 make sense? Okay, so thinking about a problem like that, we would say 5/6 plus 1/12 equals 3/4. That's what the conjecture that Maria is making. Maria's statement does not make sense. Both 5/6 and 3/4, those are both very close to 1. 5/6 is only 1/6 away from 1, and 3/4 is only 1/4 away from 1. So we know that 1/6 is smaller than 1/4. So 5/6 is closer to 1, or it's greater than 3/4. Adding 1/12 and 5/6 would give us some greater than 5/6. Do you see how we're using logic? We're using our sense of fractions and where they lie on a number line to help us through this thought process. Turn to page 85 in your math journal, or if you don't have your hard copy, you can always go to the Everyday Math website and go to your ebooks and open up the digital form of the Everyday Math book. On page 85, you're going to see Christopher solve some fraction problems. Do Christopher's answers make sense? You're either going to circle yes or no, and then you're going to write an argument. You're going to tell me why. You're either going to say, yes, this is why Christopher is correct, or you're going to say, no, this is why he is wrong. You're going to prove it, and you're going to prove it without actually doing the math. So we're going to look at number 1 together, and then you're going to do the next 3 on your own. It says 2/7 plus 1/2 equals 3/9. Okay, so I'm going to think through 2/7 and 1/2, and we're going to add these. So my thought here is I'm going to look at that 1/2. Then I'm going to look at 3/9. I know that 1/2 is greater than 3/9 because when I think about 3, I know 3 can go into 9 3 times. So this fraction right here, 3/9, is actually less than 1/2. Okay, because 3/9 is the same as 1/3 when I'm thinking of my equivalent fractions, and 1/3 is smaller than 1/2. Well, if I'm adding something to 1/2, it's going to get bigger. This number should be larger than 3/9. Let's take a look and see what they stated as well. The answer is no, because if you add 2/7 to 1/2, the answer has to be more than 1/2, not less. The answer 3/9 is less than 1/2, so it can't be correct. This right here would be my work, this is my thinking, and this is my statement. So your job now is to think and look at these. He says that 9/10 is greater than 7/8. Does this make sense? Tell me why, or why or why not. Then, let's erase this. 3 is 7/12 plus 1/4 equals 8/12. Does that make sense? Tell me why or why not. And number 4, 8/9 plus 1/3 equals 8/12. Tell me, does that make sense? Why or why not? Pause your video now and come back and check 2, 3, and 4. For number 2, the answer is yeah, it does make sense. You can compare each fraction to 1. 9/10 is only 1/10 away from 1. 7/8 is 1/8 away from 1. 1/10 is less than 1/8. So you know that 9/10 is closer to 1 whole. 9/10 is greater than 7/8. You could have drawn a number line and place those on the number line. You could have done fraction circles. You could have drawn out squares and shaded. Whatever method worked best for you. Moving on to number 3. Number 3, no, the conjecture does not make sense because 7/12 and 8/12 have the same denominator, so they're easy to compare. I know that I would have to add 1/12 to 7/12 to get 8/12. 1/4 is not equal to 1/12, so your answer does not make sense. And finally, number 4, nope, that conjecture doesn't make sense either. You compare the denominators because 8/12 and 8/9 have the same numerator. 12ths are smaller than 9ths, so 8/12 is actually less than 8/9. It doesn't make sense for the sum to be smaller than the addend, okay, because this was an addition problem. Today was a quick lesson. Again, it's just using fraction estimation to have some number sense. Remember, you can always check out the Everyday Math website, look at the Everyday Math reference book online. You can watch tutorial videos. But that is the end of today's lesson. We were using fraction number sense to do estimates for reasonableness. And now it is time to go check out your independent work.